There you go. So are there any participants in the waiting room? The only reason, okay, because we could have somebody clarify that they can see and hear us, because usually it tells us that we're recording, so I didn't know if we have to record. Okay, there's Blair. Hey Blair, can you see us and hear us? Melissa, can you see us and hear us? Yeah, I'm wondering if, see how it says Susan's the host?
Which is
If-
this one. Mark, help. Did I do it right?
There's video, there's audio.
Send this recording.
Yeah, it doesn't say it, but it does say on here it is recording.
Okay, Melissa, can you see us and hear us okay, if I get started?
Yes.
She chatted. Okay, perfect. Wonderful. Okay, so I'd like to welcome everyone to the Atchison County Commission meeting for Tuesday, April 29th. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and I will ask our finance director to complete roll call, please.
Commissioner Quinn,
Present.
Commissioner Knoll. Here. Commissioner Campbell.
Here. Thank you. And we have Mr. Cormode this morning. If we would stand for the invocation followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
I want to remind you of the experience of a man named Daniel. This Daniel became distinguished above all other officials and provincial governors because an excellent spirit was in him. And the king planned to set him over the whole kingdom. Then the high officials and the provincial governors sought to find a ground for complaint against Daniel with regard to the kingdom. But they could find no ground for complaint or any fault because he was faithful and no error or fault was found in him. Then these men said, "We shall not find any ground for complaint against Daniel unless we find it in connection with the law of his God." If you know the rest of the story, then they created a law that entrapped Daniel, and he had to make a choice: obey the law that was designed to entrap him or stay true to God. When Daniel knew that the document had been signed, he went to his house where he had windows in his upper chamber open towards Jerusalem. He got down on his knees 3 times a day and prayed and gave thanks before his God as he had done previously. Daniel was clean, Daniel was pure with God, and he knew that's the way to stay. We don't need to worry about complaints coming against us when we're true to God, when we're pure and where we are. And we make sure that we stay that way. And then, like Daniel, we can even face lions and come out alive. Just be exciting in that way. Just stay true to him and let him be the guide and leader of all that we do. Let's pray. Father, thank you so much that we have the record of a high official, somebody who was ready to become even prime minister of Persia, and understood that he stayed true to you. I pray, Father, for the county commissioners and the officials in our government in our county, that each one of them will stay true to you, that they will follow you and let you be their leader and their guide. Help them today to make good decisions and right decisions to honor your name. In Jesus, I pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, next we have public comment. Do we have anyone here for public comment? Yes, if you'd love to come up and sit here right under the microphone and
I'll introduce myself. I'm Kathy Martin. I am from Effingham. And I am the president of the city council in Effingham. I'm also a very concerned senior citizen regarding Project Concern and the funding for Project Concern. And I'm here to ask that the county commissioners really look hard at the funding for Project Concern. Because they have been funded in the past of up to $125,000, I believe, for several years in a row. And then last year it got cut to 100,000. And this year we've heard there's 0, we've heard 95, so we're trying to figure out what's what. We do not want to see the center closed. And I know you guys can't make that decision, that's Project Concern decision. But the decision that you all can make is like the gentleman just talked about, Daniel, just know in your heart that it's something that needs to happen for the seniors in this county. And the seniors, you know, west of Atchison kind of feel like they're forgotten a lot. And that's a sad thing. I'm a senior advocate. You know I'm just turned a senior, so I know, but I mean, I have always been a senior advocate because they seem to be the ones that are forgotten. So, and they pay a lot of tax dollars to the county, a lot of tax dollars. And I just ask that the county look hard and long at the decision that they make on the funding for Project Concern. So we're going to work on the Project Concern side on a separate issue, but we want to make sure that they get the funding that they need to keep the operation going up in Effingham and do not close it.
thank you.
All right.
Thank you very
It's
much.
nice to meet you. I've heard
Yes.
great things.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Good seeing
nice
you.
to finally, put your face with your name and thank you.
I still haven't heard when our next meeting is, so I'll
I
let you
haven't
know.
either. So.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, any other public comment? Seeing none on Zoom either, we will move on. Okay, before calling for a motion on approval of the agenda, I do have some additions to the agenda. So the consideration of POs will be taken out of the consent agenda and be handled right afterwards. And then also I have some additions for community corrections. The consideration of an appointment to the adult community corrections board, as well as an amendment recommendation for JCAB and an amendment recommendation for the adult board. Other than that, I think I would look for a motion to approve the agenda with those corrections.
So second,
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
aye.
Aye. Passes 3-0. All right, so the consent agenda consists of the commission meeting minutes from 2 weeks ago, which would have been April 15th. And then the finance director will give a review of our finances.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
So we did not have payroll this week, but we did have payroll last week. We did not have a commission meeting last week, so that total was 184,825.86. A little lower than normal. Again, we did not have accounts payable run last week due to no meeting. They would not have been approved anyway, so we decided to push those and have last week's run merged with this week. So the total for that entire AP run is $200,862.34. The credit cards of that total was $7,465.72. There's several offices that make up that amount. EMS had $1,398.96, which was office supplies, uniforms, vehicle maintenance, building expenses. Solid waste had $3,035.40, was auto parts and office supplies. $22.77 was for Fresh Fruit Friday, which is an employee wellness benefit that we do at the county. Noxious Weed had $848.31, was training expenses and meals. Road and Bridge had $1,374.49, which was supplies such as T-posts, shop supplies, uniform expenses, and then the Kansas Highway Association membership. Community Corrections had $419.41, which was custodial supplies, UA shipping charges, per diems for training, program supplies, and then they have guides for Kansas sentencing. And the courts had 366.13, which was office supplies, statute books, some computer supplies, and meals for training.
And could you just touch base a little bit, when we had signed and reviewed the expenses, it showed that both solid waste and joint communications were like
Yes.
$500,000,
Yes, so
over $500,000 in the red.
the money is not been moved yet for the sales tax into those funds. So as soon as April's moved, it would go down.
Okay. Okay, perfect.
We'll get closer to zero with those.
Okay, wonderful. All right, so I would look for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented by our finance director.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes 3-0. Okay, next we have consideration of POs. And this is for Joe at Road and Bridge. Do you want to come up and do those, and then I'll do the community corrections after that. I still have
Good morning.
that.
All right, so the first PO would be for David Jacobson, survey terraces on the new property to make sure we wouldn't have a problem if we cut terraces. The water flow was where it's supposed to be, and then he also did a grid, elevation grid for the 12 acres to help with our grading survey of $280.
Look for a motion to approve the purchase order as presented by our Road and Bridge Superintendent to David Jacobson in the amount of $280.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes 3-0.
The second one is geotechnical investigation support and design construction of the new facility. BG consultants send the requirements to P.E.C. professional engineering consultants, and they will come up and do a geotech as soon as the agreement is signed for $8,100.
Look for a motion to approve the purchase order to P.E.C. Professional Engineering Consultants in the amount of $8,100 as presented by our Road and Bridge Superintendent. Second, moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion passes 2-1.
All right, the third one is for training, greater training for Jackson's heavy equipment for $8,000. Would you like me to explain any of that?
Yes, I would love for you to go into detail
So,
about what that looks like.
I met Mr. Jackson. He gave a presentation at the Mink conference last year and over his training for heavy equipment. He came in, he didn't have an opening. I asked him if anybody canceled to let us know. He was busy from March till November. They had a cancellation. He got us in. And we now have a process of how we're going to start our drainage. It's going to be several passes throughout the year to get the drainage established, a hinge point, and pull the material from the ditch up to the edge of the road and incorporate it into the road so that we're not hauling off any material. A lot of the material in the ditch has aggregate in it. So if you see two blades running together, one will be pulling, the other one will be laying the windrow back against the edge of the road. That's what's going on. But this is a process that we will start and do on all the roads, but it will take time. But then we will, as we do this, we'll be adding the material from the ditch into the road, building the road up as well as establishing drainage. And we'll start on one side and go through the roads, and then we'll go to the other side. And then as we blade, we will take the quarter round out of the road and lay it over the center, and we'll do that from both sides also. So there's a process to it. Everyone's bought into it. It's one of the best trainings I've been to, and we will work very hard at getting as good as we can possibly be at doing this.
And this prevents us from hauling off,
Yes.
which has been a concern
Yes,
by
because
citizens.
the problem we had before was if we do it all at once, we can't afford to put all the rock on top of the dirt. So we were hauling it off. We weren't far off on what we were doing, but we learned a lot in these 4 days. And it rained. The road we used, we pulled was Mead. We pulled a lot of stuff up into the road just so the guys could get the whole training within the week. And it rained. You know, and it kind of made a little bit of a mess, but that's the only way we could get them to have the time to do it. And one night they stayed till 7:30 because it wasn't raining. So that's what we're gonna do. If anybody has any questions, you know, when we go by, we're going to be cutting drainage and making a hinge point. When we get to yards or where people mow, we're still gonna have to do some cut. If we don't have to, we won't, but to make everything drain, that's probably gonna happen.
And how many of our staff were able to go through this?
6.
Okay.
They usually take 10. I chose the people that I thought would be best suited for it. I completed the training also. So if someone leaves, we have people that can help train. But it will be consistent throughout the county how we do this.
All right, I would look for a motion to approve the purchase order as presented from our road and bridge superintendent to Jackson's heavy equipment training for the greater training in the amount of $8,000.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes 3-0.
And the last PO is the inspection phase for phase 1 of putting the 3 large culverts in from Schwab Eaton and the amount of 29 for Ottawa Road and the amount of $29,800. And then there's also agreement if this is if you guys pass this or okay this, then I will sign an agreement with them and we'll get them out there inspecting this right away.
Yes, and I think this is something. For me, the magnitude of this project, we have to ensure we have checks and balances, just like we did on the Morton Road when we had someone watching every step of the way. It's worth it to have somebody doing that. So I appreciate that. So I'd look for a motion to approve this purchase order as presented by a road and bridge superintendent to Schwab Eaton for the inspection of phase 1 from Tunks in the amount of $29,800.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Passes 3-0. And this had been budgeted this year, part of our project.
Yes. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. All right, so next I have 2 amendments. Look for a motion to approve the third quarter budget amendment for our juvenile services in the amount of $44,724.83. This was given to us by our community corrections director and ran through her board as well.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Also, this is, I guess we could just all sign next to it. That's fine. I didn't call for a motion from the chair, so we can just all sign. I also have a third quarter budget adjustment report for the adult services in the amount of $28,263.14. This has also been reviewed by the adult Community Corrections Board, and looking for approval from the commission. Do I have a motion to approve?
Some, second,
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
aye.
Aye. Passes 3-0. All right, we have a vacancy on our Community Corrections Adult Board. And we have interest from the Vice President of Student Services at Highland Community College, Dr. Eric Ingmeyer. So I would look for a motion to appoint Dr. Ingmeyer to our Adult Community Corrections Board.
So moved. I'll second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes 3-0. All right, Commissioner comments, Commissioner Campbell?
Had a busy week last week and all the meetings were productive. So that's a good report for me. That's all I've got.
Okay, I just want to remind that we're gonna have a special meeting May 15th, 7 p.m. Here in the commission room, on the consideration of selling the county lake. I just want people to be aware of it and have everybody have an opportunity to talk about it. I haven't received a lot of comments about it. Some people were curious how our first meeting went. I thought it went very well. And we'll be looking forward to hearing from everyone.
Awesome. All right, I just have a few comments. First of all, I was able to attend the Atchison Topeka Santa Fe Railway plaque dedication last week. That was on Thursday. Just wanted to extend my congrats to Mr. McCaverty. He was dedicated the plaque there, as well as just a great job by the Santa Fe Depot Board of Trustees. We also just finished up our 3rd annual Atchison County wide cleanup, which I've heard great things. My district was able to fill dumpsters again for the 3rd year in a row with garbage and trash and get, take full advantage. I've heard nothing but positives from organizations that took part. And then we've even received correspondence from the college sports teams from Benedictine that they had a conflict with a game, but they got trash bags and they're going to do it another weekend. So I just think that's really awesome to see our county come together for the betterment of cleaning it up. So great job to Solid Waste for hosting that and organizing all of that. And thank you to everyone that participated. I also attended the Kansas County Commission Association last Monday through Wednesday, and have not had time to kind of recap to everyone, but it was so much great information in a room full of Kansas County commissioners to brainstorm and to learn from. And so there's a lot of applicable information that I learned that I'm looking forward to visiting with folks here in Atchison County to learn more. Just some of the things they did: a legislative update, strengthening cybersecurity. We had conservation districts, learned a lot from the executive director of the Kansas Association of Conservation Districts. The Kansas County role of mental health, commissioner responsibility of public health, employee safety. It was so many great topics that were very applicable to our county and just learning everything on the horizon. So it was really good. And when I have a moment to recap all of that, I'll be communicating with local points of contact to learn more. So that is all I have. Next, we have new business. Mark Zeltner, Finance Director, consideration of POs.
Okay, so first one I have is for the sports complex in Effingham. Request for payment to Grassroots Lawn Care for seeding and weed control on the baseball and softball fields for $600.
For a motion to approve the request for payment as presented by our finance director to Grassroots Lawn Care for $600.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes 3-0.
Okay, these next two are from Brian's department. However, they're paid out of the reserve fund. He came to you guys and asked about, there were some issues and asked about how to get it done. So we had given the approval for the reserve fund. So this first one is for Tate Plumbing. For plumbing work and on the interior drain repair for the courts. The total is $2,400.
You guys remember when he brought the pictures of what he found buying. All right, so I would look for a motion to approve the purchase order to Tate Plumbing as presented by our finance director. In the amount of $2,400.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Passes 3-0. And the reason we're paying this out of reserve is when he started the renovation process, he opens up the walls and this is what he finds. And so it wasn't forecasted for, so we're utilizing our reserve to assist with us.
Okay, the second one is to Gerber Electric for moving a circuit panel for the courts. The total is $550.30.
For a motion to approve this purchase order as presented by our finance director to Gerber Electric for $550.30.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes 3-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll put those through for next week's accounts payable run, so they'll be on the report next week.
Yeah, thank you. Next up, we have Tiffany Hoffman with the Conservation District with a 2026 budget request. Hi, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So you do have a copy of our proposed budget for this year, along with or what our annual report was, that we have an annual meeting has to be done in January or February. So I did include that annual report, so you'll kind of see what expenses we did incur on that annual report for the 2024. K.S.A attended, and I think Eric attended the annual meeting, and there was some questions, and so I just kind of wanted to make those clear. If you look at our annual report, there was an expense that went to the Division of Conservation, and it was for $53,000. And I just wanted to clear that up. The reason why we had to basically give that money back to the Department of Conservation was because it was for a DOC tech position, and we lost that position. It had been vacant for 2 years, and we had tried to fill it, and we could not get anyone in that position. So they took that funding back to us, or back from us, to give it to another county, and hopefully they could get a DOC technician. We were just having an issue with, I think, the amount of money that we were able to offer them, because it is fully funded by the Department of Conservation. They just allow us to have that position in our district, but NRCS does train that position, if that makes sense. So we also had an NRCS position that was vacant as well. And when we would have someone come in, which we did hire that position. And then with all the federal layoffs, we've lost that position. But they took the government position over a state position because of the money that was allowed to them over what we could in the state position, if that makes sense to you. So that was the big discrepancy, or a big, question, that if you would wonder why we had that expense, that is why. There is a copy of our cost share programs. If you're not aware of our cost share programs, we are given an allocation from the Department of Conservation every year that we take a application process. It starts March 1st and ends March 31st. Does not matter if a producer comes and sees me on the 1st of March or comes and sees me on the very last March at 5 o'clock. That it is a sign up period, but those applications are a ranking process to see who gets that funding. So our water resource allocation last year was $52,357, and we were able to approve 11 applications and paid that. So that we did go back into the soil last year out of our water resources. Those projects are mainly terraces, basins, go back into the fields. Our non-point source allocation is a separate, and those are mainly septic systems is what we pull out of that. However, the state has just recently let us, and I say recently within the last year, we can do terrace work out of that funds now too. We used to not be able to, but now they've opened that up. There's been talk that maybe those funds will just combine into one fund, but that hasn't happened yet. But we were able to include that and cover crop, which is a program that is through ADM. And we were able to those total funds back into the soil of $62,936. So we were able to give that, and there was 9 approved applications for those.
Since I'm on NEKES.
Yes.
Board also, which we do septic systems, do you guys work together on getting things, or are there like grants through you and grants through them? Are they applicable to the same project?
So they
Or
have a grant. Ours, what I think the grant, I don't know if they have to pay that back but they do not, but we are maxed out now at $2,500 is what we can give a producer for a septic. We used to be able to set it as our landowner limit, which is any water resource projects that we have. The board set a $5,000 maximum limit to producers so we can try to help more folks in the county, and the whole amount doesn't go to one person.
Well, that's what I was getting at. I was wondering if, say, they applied to both you and NEKES, if they were getting funds from both sides. I mean, do you take into consideration if they've got are funded through NEKES?
We would, but we haven't had that issue. So when Martha calls me and tells me, hey, I've got someone that's got a permit, and she said, I sent him to talk to you about funding. She's always out of funding when she's having to us because they have capped us at $25,000 or $2,500. Yes. So that's never been an issue at the past. If that did happen, that would be a board decision. But again, $25,000 or $2,500 does not touch a septic system anymore. That's unfortunate. So
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome. So we are asking this year a total of $25,000. We are aware of the issues that you guys have had with funding, and I think we've been through last year with us getting cut. I think it was around 6,000. We've done some cuts this year and kind of did some research to see what we could cut, and we are looking at finding a different auditor. We were paying an astronomical amount of money to our auditor, but an audit is it's part of the policy with DOC. And there's only certain auditors that are do an audit for conservation districts. There's a lot of folks that won't do it. So we have found someone in Manhattan that probably cut us down $500. So we've made some cuts in different ways. So we are just asking for $25,000 this year. Do you have any questions?
So one thing that I learned, which at our KCCA last week, was about Senate Bill 36.
Yes.
So that's exciting.
Yes.
And I heard him during the presentation, and I even went up afterwards to make sure that I asked him, like, so.
This was Dan, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So, and correct me if I'm wrong, but when the county gives you $25,000, the match has now changed from a 1-to-1 to a 1-to-2. So they increased the cap. So we give 25,000, and then you can get 50,000 on. That's incredible.
That's what they're telling us. So
Well,
our
and
fingers
that's-
and toes are
They
crossed.
told us all of that in the presentation, and then
yes.
I went up specifically after to say, did I hear that right?
Yes.
Because that was exciting.
Yeah, it's very exciting. We're just trying, and I say myself and surrounding counties are just trying not to get too excited just yet. We want to just make sure that that is, but it sounds like it is really happening.
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah, so that is
was-
huge for us this
that
year.
was
And that was another reason why, you know, if they're gonna give us that, then, and we're gonna cut,
Yeah.
then we can hopefully, I mean, we are a nonprofit. So, you know, you have to be careful. You have to spend your money, but you have to prepare for future expenses as well. So, yes, I'm
Which was
hopeful.
an interesting conversation with you because at that meeting, when we went over the finances and you see a balance on hand of $23,000, like I had one of those moments of like, oh gosh, this isn't gonna work, but
I
to your
I
point-
have that moment every year.
but to your point of the nonprofit, like you guys are doing all the
Yes,
things, so.
there are surrounding counties, maybe I should say this out loud, maybe I shouldn't, but, I helped, me and another, district manager in another county helped, a neighboring county with when they were vacant for a short period of time. And then we were helping train them and they were sitting on over $100,000. And we both looked at each other, meaning the one that I were training her, and we said, you can't have this. Like, this is insane. Like, because you're a nonprofit, you can't be sitting on that amount of money. And I said, I wouldn't be shocked if the state or your county commissioners, eventually, when you go keep asking for money, they're gonna look at you and be like, again, this was 2 or 3 years ago, knowing things were changing, they're probably gonna cut you. And they did cut them quite considerably last year. So.
That needs to be pushed out.
Absolutely. That's what it's for. It's for your producers. It's for your county and it needs to be pushed out and spent to help. So, yes.
Awesome.
So, any other questions?
Think so.
All right. Thank you so
Yep,
much. Have a
thank
good day.
you.
See the posters are all on display upstairs?
I did. I'm actually gonna take them away.
Okay.
School is coming to an end, so I figure I better give them back to the school as
Yeah,
well.
that's true.
And tomorrow, the Conservation District is hosting our first annual Ag Day in the park in Effingham. So feel free to come out and see what we're doing. We're hosting fifth graders throughout the county. And we have all schools in the county that will be attending. So
That's awesome.
Trinity Lutheran will be there, St. Benedict's, Effingham, and 409. So we're looking at about 200 kids. So if
Wow.
you have time, come out and see us, but we'll have lots of pictures. So we can show
Are you needing setters?
Do what?
Are you needing sitters with 200 kids?
I recruited the FFA kids from the high school to help out with that as well, and we are hearing it's going to be lots of rain, so we kind of have a backup plan with the fair board, so hopefully it'll be a good day for us.
Awesome.
So come out and see us if you like.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you guys, have a good day.
Okay, next up, we have Jerry Henry with Achievement Services for the 2026 budget request. Hi, Jerry.
Hello.
How are you?
Thank you. How are you guys all today?
Good, how are you?
Great. Thank you.
So I appreciate the opportunity to spend a few minutes with you guys today.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
We get one for Susan.
Okay, so
So. Hello, Pat. Just wanted to come and spend a few minutes with the board. Mr. Campbell, I know this is your first kind of round, so I thought I'd maybe make a little bit of some introductory things
Thank
for you, because
Yeah.
I really would love to take this time to talk about Achievement Services, talk about what Achievement Services has provided for the citizens of the Atchison County for many, many years, and how important it is, how important our work is, and I guess to continue to request the funding from county commissioners for the services we provide. I do know I came today because, you know, the budgeting system is a whole lot different than it was before in the way of requests, and so I thought I'd come and talk, and then if you guys can explain to me what we're up to for the next couple of months, I would also like to hear that. So, but first of all, I do want to say that I've been with Achievement Services now for 47 years. This is my 47th year in a row that I made a presentation to the county commission. So it is always it's always a good a chance to do this. I wanted to put in writing here, and I did a couple pages. I really want to read it all to you, but I wanted to spend time because as you know, I mean, all of us know, I know how hard your position is. I don't know if you all, I know Mr. Campbell and I've spent close to 30 years in public elected service, so it is very difficult times when you have to balance budgets. And as I say, I was on the House Appropriations Committee for 16 years. And so I know this process is very difficult, and it always demands that each year people come forward and tell our elected officials what we do for the community and how we handle that. So, and as you know, Medicaid, which is our major funder, is as we speak this week, the federal government is looking at how do we, cut $899 billion in Medicaid funding nationwide. And so even though I have people look at us say, well, we'll never touch your programs, when you start cutting things, it does happen. It goes down the stream. So we're watching that very closely because that is very important to us. And as you all know, the state of Kansas has a funding hole, and they're projecting to be in funding hole here in the next year or two. So it is a concerning time for all of us that provide human services and nonprofit services to our community to hope and pray what's going to happen for the future. And so I come today to represent Achievement Services, but I also want to come to represent the families and the guardians and the consumers that we serve, the developmentally disabled individuals that we have. Just for example, we serve 22 people in Mall Towers. We have an office at Mall Towers. We provide 24-hour care. Achievement Services does there. We have 3 individuals in wheelchairs at Mall Towers that it's our responsibility to get them out of their chair and put them in bed at night. And it's our responsibility to be there in the morning to get them up and get them out of the chair and then on to their regular day. So our work is not, it goes 24 hours a day, 365 days out of the year. As you know, when we're in the middle of blizzards, most businesses are shutting down and heading home. We have to go get our people and bring them to work. We can't tell somebody that they have to stay in bed for 3 days until we get staff here. So our work is what during a pandemic, the commission deemed us as an essential business to our community. As essential meaning we have to provide the services no matter what's happening. And as I say, during the whole pandemic, Achievement Services never shut down. I didn't even allow our administrative staff to go home because we felt it was important that we continue our work even when everybody else was at home. So as you can see, we provide a very important service to the Atchison community. And I guess, I know there's a lot of people that talk about nonprofits and does the county have a role in funding nonprofits and what they do. And my goal today is to come to say that, the county has been providing services for the developmentally disabled since the beginning of the state. The state started, and as I wrote down here at the bottom first page, the Constitution of the state of Kansas even has a provision that institutions for the benefit of mentally and physically incapacitated or handicapped people and such other benevolent institutions as the public good may require shall be fostered and supported by the state, subject to regulations as may be prescribed by law. And that was adopted in 1859 by the state of Kansas. So, and as you know, we've looked at the legislature has passed many statutes that enable county commissions to provide funding for community services for development disabled. Now, in 1978, I was just hired as the first director, which has been 47 years ago. We came with a group of parents, a lot of parents, and frankly, I could have filled this room today with people that desire the needs, the services that Achievement Services provides in our community. And so, while I didn't do that today, I didn't, because I know we're still in the middle of the process. I wanted to hear what exactly was happening, but there are a lot of people in our community that provide services and depend on our services, not just the consumers, but the families and the individuals that they serve and take care of. So in 78, we asked the county commission for $30,000 to establish Achievement Services, which would be a community support program. This concept was fairly new in the state of Kansas. There were a few other counties that were doing it, but Atchison was pretty much on the cutting edge of doing this. And the Atchison County Commissions gave us $30,000. Our first year budget was $51,000. So as you can see, it wasn't for the County Commission of Atchison County. we probably wouldn't have got started in at that time. So the Atchison County Commissioners felt it was very important that this work be started and that it continue. And I think, I remember growing up as a little boy, I lived out in southern part of Atchison, and one day I was going down a gravel road and I saw a building, and I know exactly where it was. I still know where it is. It's not there anymore, but that was the county home. You know, and back in those days, every county had a county home, and most of the time it was in the rural part of the area. And there were people on the front porch. And I asked my dad, what was that? And he said, well, that's where the Atchison County home is. And if you're probably all too young to remember, but back in those days, the county homes took people from the county that weren't quite, doing what society wanted, and brought them to the county until they found services for them. People brought people with needs to the county commission, said, we need you to help us for these individuals. Some of those were disabled individuals, and they would stay there until they could find other services for them. So the county commission has had a long history of providing services for people with disabilities. And so I wanted to come talk about that today, that, we're just not a nonprofit that's doing warm and fuzzy things. We do things for individuals that is important into their life and to their community. So I also want you to also know, in 1978, the state of Kansas operated 4 state hospitals for the disabled. And at that time, there were over 4,000 Kansas citizens with disabilities who were residents at the hospital. All the staff of these hospitals were state employees. Today, the state of Kansas still operates state hospitals, but only serve around 200 people, residents. As you can clearly see, the state of Kansas has, over the past 50 years, slowly moved away from state-operated institutions to community services. In 1985, Achievement Services established residential group homes in Atchison. These were 24-hour residential homes, and many of our parents really wanted this to happen. And in fact, we went to every bank trying to get a loan, and none of them would give it to us. They just felt the funding was too, they didn't quite trust the state that they would continue the funding. And Linda and Wayne Wallace, who has a daughter, Cindy, signed our loan for us. And Dr. Wallace said, if you make all the payments, we'll donate it back to you. And we did. We made all the payments, and he did. He donated the house back to us. So those were times when we were just trying to get started. But as you can see, today we're approximately a $2 million operation. We employ 35 full-time staff in Atchison County, and we process close to 80 payroll checks every 2 weeks. Most of the consumers in our day service program receive a small paycheck every 2 weeks for work completed. So as you can see, from an economic development standpoint, it is my hope that you can see that Achievement Services has brought a substantial amount of money to our local community. Money that at one time was spent by the state of Kansas at state-operated institutions in other communities. Has now been reverted to community services here at Atchison. It is my hope that you can see through the efforts of Achievement Services that we have grown our agency to where the property taxes and the sales taxes paid by our staff and the consumers we serve helps fund the $48,000 appropriation we are currently requesting for funding. Aside from money, the services that Achievement Services provide has greatly improved the lives of the consumers we serve. Our consumers get to live in an independent life that is far removed from the lives that they would have experienced in a state-operated institution. For parents, families, and guardians, Achievement Services has provided them with extreme happiness in knowing that their child has a place in their community. I can still clearly remember parents telling me about the time when they had their baby with obvious physical disabilities, such as Down syndromes or physical impairments, that their doctor's advice was to drive their baby to the state hospital in Topeka, kiss their baby goodbye, and hand it to a nurse at the hospital. Doctors were taught this option for parents in medical school. Because there were no services in the communities for these families, many families followed the advice of their doctor. And to say the very least, it was a traumatic days for those families. While many of these parents have now passed away, I know of a few parents that still live in Atchison who would be happy to tell you of their story of their disabled child in a state-operated hospital, and how community services have been a godsend for their family. I still clearly remember the day and the Achievement Services Board of Directors meeting in 1995, when we invited all families in our Atchison community for celebration of achieving a very important goal. We celebrated the fact that all Atchison County residents who had been residing in a state hospital had been moved back to their community. Since that time, no Atchison County resident with disabilities has been placed in a state hospital. It was the unbelievable power of families who wanted community services instead of state-operated institutions that drove this movement over the past 60 years. This was not developed by politicians in Topeka or Washington, D.C., but by families who wanted things better for their family and for other families like them. While all funding is important to achievement services, I wanted to tell you that the $48,000 appropriation from Atchison County Commission is gold to us. We are constantly being asked by anyone that we have business dealings with, do you have local community funding sources and support? Even the IRS asks us these questions. Many other funding sources that we pursue always want to know, do we have local community support behind you? It is always with great pride that I can report that we receive local funding and that we have the support of the community behind us. There are a lot of funding organizations that will not give you funding unless you have some evidence that the local community supports you. So what stands to reason? If the local community won't support you, why would somebody with grant funding want to support you also? So thank you for the support and for the past 47 years and your past commitment of $48,000 to Achievement Services. Without your help in the beginning and your continued support through the years, we would not be where we are today in providing such needed services for very vulnerable citizens in our Atchison community. And my last page is just, we brought some pictures of things we did last year with our consumers, and we kind of we'll let you know that we do get our people out. Independence and inclusion is very important to our people. And so that is something that we take very seriously and we try to work on. So Madam Chairwoman, that's my presentation. I'd love to answer questions and hear what's going to happen and what I should be working for or looking for. So, okay.
You guys.
I don't have any questions.
I don't have anything. Thank you. Well,
Thank you very much.
And just to give you, I think it's very important because I've received several calls from people of what happened?
Mhm.
Why'd you cut us? Right. And like, it was not a pleasant experience last year. It was actually torture for me, of how the budget was handled.
Mhm.
Because we have a process and we go through from our department heads, elected officials, appropriations, hear the need, compile the need. At the end of that, you have a number that equates to mills. And that was 62 mills that we were staring at consistently for the past 2 years, right? That's really where we landed based on the needs. And it was decided in a workshop setting that 57 was the key number right there. So 57 is what direction the clerk was given to certify on the R&R notices, which she did, without a vote, which it's in the minutes, you can read it. And then from that decision, our finance director looked at us and said, okay, well, now you got to find $1.6 million to cut, right? So the rhyme and reason isn't intentional per program. It was the bind we were put in of 1.6 million of cuts. Where do you look? And so it was supplemented with cash, taken our elected reserves, cut our appropriations. And honestly, that's what we're seeing with all the things happening. So I just want everyone to understand, like, it's not intentional. And to me, if I feel like achievement services should be cut, that's a conversation, right? Not a blanket $1.6 million and go through and just cut. But that was the situation we were forced. Like,
Sure.
you know how it works.
Know exactly how to say.
So when you certify to the public, this is what you're going to do, then on the back end, you got to figure out how's that going to look. So just to give you some clarity of what that looked like. because it was in the workshop settings. But thank you for this.
Okay.
And thank you for just all the work that you do
Thank you.
for the people
I appreciate
of
it.
our county.
So, and you know, it's really difficult. Well, it's a difficult job to do. I'm just telling you that, you know, the issue is, you know, I remember the day I came and to get a driver, you know, get a certificate for the driver's license, you know, things and it used to be 5 days and it was $10. Now it's 3 days and $15, you know. But the people I serve have no money, you know. We can't charge fees, you know, we can't charge the people. But, you know, and I said, well, where would the county be today if they didn't have fees to support, you know, and we don't have that. We can't go ask for them for the funding. All of our funding is at the behest of the Kansas legislature. We can't get another dollar from the federal government unless the legislature provides the match funding. So we're kind of like boxed. You know, we can't go anywhere and raise our prices. The only thing we can do is just try to cut services, and we've done that. We've done really hard, and we've done what we could to make sure we provide the 24-hour services. But and as you know, I mean, I see you guys have the same problem I have in hiring people. It's just very difficult. So we just don't have anywhere to, okay, well, we can raise our fees or ask for more from somebody else. So, but we're trying hard, and there are some grant opportunities out there. But anyway, just try to consider us what we have. I mean, as I say, your money is more than just money. It's gold to us. It just gives us a standard of, hey, the county still thinks you're important enough to provide us some type of funding. So that was my request.
One quick question. Is it from birth to, the reason I'm asking is
Yeah.
like, as you were speaking, there's a couple
Yeah.
families that I know are looking for,
Yeah.
assistance, and, you know, it's one of those things, I don't know if
Yeah.
it'd be a good fit, but I didn't know if it's from birth or.
Yeah, our eligibility is from birth on, and then we do have what they call a traumatic brain injury. I mean, we have a lot of individuals that in their life, they had I'll just say motorcycle accidents, some type of traumatic brain injury, and then that's a different waiver. But ours is mainly from birth or something happened in their youth where they became permanently disabled. It won't be cured. It's not going to go away. So that's the bottom line is most of ours have been onset from birth on. So
Thank you.
it's some type of mental and physical disability that has prevented them from being able to live the life that we all else have. So,
Appreciate it.
okay, I'm
you.
always available,
Okay.
you know, so I'm only half a block away. I can come see if you need me to answer any other questions.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
All right, next we have Roger Denton, GIS, with a discussion of rural fire district number 2 expansion and discussion of proposals for surveying Atchison County Lake.
Oh, you've got that. You're gonna get it again. This is mapping, our GIS mapping for emergency services was created shortly after my arrival 13 years ago. A little more than 13 years ago now. And the situation is that at the time that Wes and Kim came to me, they had maps that were hand drawn, and I said, we have service jurisdictions, fire districts, which you can't just move people from one fire district to another because they're in a tax and service district. Now, having said that, there are all of the areas that you see on this map that say Everest, Horton, Effingham, Service, Holton, and Valley Falls. Those are all areas which are in no fire district. Okay, they are not in a local fire district. Now, we know that there are changes based on the discussions we had the other day, that some of these EMS districts need to change, and we know that we need to change the maps. We sat down with Corey, went through it, and we researched, he researched, we all started taking a look at what the service contracts were for all of these areas that we have shown outside the Effingham Fire District. We met, on March 27th with the Rural Fire Department number 2, and they had an interest in increasing their service area. Now, having done the research, we found 4 contracts. Excuse me, 3 contracts. First off, Effingham does have an agreement. See the area that we saved for Effingham service? It has an agreement, but the agreement is actually for a half a mile less to the north. Now, the reason we show it slightly larger is because I don't know how you can have a property in your service jurisdiction that's owned by someone who also, their parcels went outside the service jurisdiction. So do you respond or not respond? So I have always thought that an entire parcel needs to fall within a service jurisdiction. We're that way on taxation. We should be that way on any service contract. There is a service contract. It does define the area, and that's where it was. However, it's for $750 a year, and it says it will be reviewed every year in December. It hadn't been reviewed that we know of for at least 13 years, and according to the fire district, they don't know that it's ever been reviewed. Second agreement we have a Horton Grasshopper agreement that spells out a term of service, but it doesn't define the area which it uses. And if it doesn't define the area, it doesn't do me any good. Now, there's a map attached to it, but the map does not appear to be part of the original ordinance, nor was it our agreement, nor was it referred to in the agreement in any manner whatsoever. It looks like somebody's just attached a colored map that has some lines drawn as to where the district
Would it
would
be
be.
this area here?
I
mean,
we wouldn't know the area. That's the whole thing, Eric. It doesn't define an area.
well, I bet it's Grasshopper
Well, Grasshopper is,
and Horton. I mean, that would only, that's where I'm saying it would, greater or less, it would be this type of area.
well, but it would also include all that area where Everest is and half the area where the Effingham service is.
Well, that's, I didn't think Grasshopper went over that far.
Oh,
that's hard.
There's a map.
here's the map,
Yeah,
doesn't it?
yeah, it would come.
Grasshopper comes
Yeah.
all the way to here, doesn't it?
Yeah, and that's
So
what
it does go way over there. And the problem is, we just don't know. We can't define the area. And we've got the same problem. Horton did another one with the city of Muskota. Now, that one is easy to understand because it says it's the city of Muskota. So you can define where the city of Muskota is. The problem is we don't have contracts on any of those areas that seem very good to us. And so we met with Corey. I've spoken with Pat about it and said, we need to have service contracts for these areas to have them on the map. Where I am with it is, I feel exposed having them on the map and not having a service contract for them, because if they get a call and they don't respond, they can say, we don't have a contract. And then people are going to say, well, you show it on your map and you're telling 911 to call these people. So I would need to know, does the commission, and Corey's not in here, I would ask him that question, does the commission want me to show Everest, Horton, Holton, and Valley Falls as service jurisdictions on that 911 map?
and to my knowledge, this area here is not covered by anyone.
None of those areas are covered by anyone.
Well, but I mean, is it, I mean, you've got Holton here written on that.
And we've got Valley Falls written on this one,
Yeah,
and we've
well-
got Horton written on this one. We have nothing that says what anyone is really covering.
Okay.
So, other than, other than Muskota and this little area in blue in here.
Well, and the fire districts themselves.
Oh, the fire districts are good. I'm just saying in this no service area. This is all a no, see this area out here? This is all in no service jurisdiction.
Yeah, and that's what you guys are working on. I mean, what's the, so you and Corey are going out and seeking.
No, I'm not going out and seeking. I've given Pat and Corey descriptions of these service jurisdictions. And Corey has said, and he's seeking Pat's input on the contract, and Corey has said he will go out and determine if he can get a service agreement on it. I'm saying, unless somebody tells me to leave those on the map, I will pull them off the map and notify the 911 people with Mark not to have them on the call. And the reason being, I don't want to be liable for it.
Do you mind if I ask a couple questions?
Okay.
So help me understand, because this discussion originated with our March 27th meeting with Rural Fire District number 2.
Correct.
And we are we concerned about our joint communications call, like who's being paged, or I guess I'm just wondering, is Rural Fire District 2 should be at the table to help us with these? Because to your point, if you call and take them off, you don't want someone to have an issue and no one respond. Like, so what I'm wondering is the root of the cause, should Rural Fire District number 2 work with us to get some MOUs put in place, or some agreement, so that everyone's covered that lives within Atchison County, that if you have an issue, dispatch has no question, fire districts have no question of where they're responding and why they're responding.
I will agree with your statement. The only portion that we're still going to have on there is an Effingham service jurisdiction, which is smaller than this area in blue. Okay. And we would continue to show that one because there is an old service contract. It defines it as slightly smaller than what this is. And it says for $750 a year, but they've already said, they had told us they didn't even know where that agreement was.
Okay.
We have found a copy of that agreement.
So
But here's my issue. It's a liability for me to show service where we don't have a contract of service. It just is. So if you just tell me, leave it the way it is while we're working through this,
Yeah.
then I'm good with that. And it's not on my shoulders anymore. And you're part of the problem, and that's okay.
Well, so for me, I want to know, what are the next steps to get agreements in place? Because time is of essence to make sure everybody's covered, that we have something in writing. Who's the point person? If it's Corey, that's fine. But let's give him that direction to go get something in writing, define the areas, do all the things that need to be done to clean it up, so everybody can sleep at night that you're covered, it's in writing, we're good. You know, when there's a call that comes in, they're dispatching accordingly. Everybody is on the same page, I
Roger,
guess.
who's been responding? Well, prior to March 22nd, when we had all these, when we had the meeting, who's been responding to those areas? It's been
Again,
Corey, right?
that would be a better question for Corey, because I really don't know how many response calls there are out here and what the fire calls are in that area. Now, they still have,
I'm going to add something.
they still have
Look,
Atchison
there's
County.
several different things going on here, because some of them are, there's a presumption of coverage under the contract.
There is
But
rescue.
it's not quite correct in their boundaries and things that you found. This section here with Holton, the reason I keep coming back to there is no understanding who has that jurisdiction at all. There is no service in that area at all. When that was put into the 911 system, that was directed to go to Holton. They never did file any paperwork to have that included in any agreement, or actually it was supposed to, 911, the calls go to Holton. That was supposed to be filed and become their taxing district, was this section that says Holton here. Now, but like Valley Falls, there is an agreement, I believe, there's always been a presumption that that is Valley Falls, and those calls are directed that way. So some of this is, and also this area here, they're wanting to expand our taxing district to take that over and actually not have an agreement where they're paying, the Grasshopper's paying them out of there. Didn't they want to take that to a vote and to actually make that the taxing district the same as it would be? It would just go further up.
I believe so, yes.
So, I mean, there's several different things going on at the same time here. So
Absolutely.
that's the reason I wanted to clarify a little bit.
And I'm not accusing you of anything here.
Sure.
I'm saying the guy who told me where to put these lines in the room, along with our dispatch people, is no longer employed by Atchison County. And so now I'm facing a situation where people are looking at a map and saying, why do I have the lines there? And I'm saying, because just like with the Holton and the Valley Falls, I don't have contracts for either one of those. And so, and you say you think there is a Valley Falls, but if we can't find it, and we talk to these people, and we've spoken with the Valley Falls folk, we've spoken with the Horton folk, we've spoken with the Holton folk, and even the contracts we have on Horton are just with, they're just with Grasshopper Township, and we've got nothing with Everest. And so the problem is, I'm not disagreeing with you on anything.
I'm trying to
I'm just
clarify.
saying, I made the maps the first time off of what the experts told me were the lines, and now I'm finding out there's nothing there. Okay, so I have spoken with Corey, I've spoken with Pat, and we have created the legal descriptions for all of these districts as they currently show. Pat is getting a copy of the owners of the Effingham Service District you see on there. I believe you're getting a copy of that to the Effingham people so that they can create their
I'm going
petition.
to use that to create petitions for them to circulate.
Okay.
Okay,
But I
petitions
said
to
I
make
do.
that the taxing district.
To make that part of the Effingham Fire District.
Correct.
But the other areas on there, the Valley Falls, Holton, Horton, and Evers, we have nothing on those. That shows where they are. And so Corey has said he would take those to them with these maps and say, would you do this? And then put together with Pat's assistance a service contract, so that there is a service contract on it. I mean, that's where we want to head. And yes, I want it fixed. At the same time, my urgency is to say, I'm not going to sit on it being wrong without somebody else coming in and saying, yes, this is okay, because I don't want everybody blaming somebody who's not an Atchison County employee anymore for.
So Corey will be
Yeah.
here, right, 11:30. So that's where we'll default to, because if he tells us, yes, I am covering these areas until, at least until we have until we have the agreements, because we gotta have that assurance that, it's being covered. That's why I asked that question, who's been covering it? But if Corey's, because I've heard from Corey, I believe that, he feels like he's covering the entire county. I mean, ultimately, it's like he feels like that's his, but that's contracts aside. That means,
Now, let me clarify.
Yeah.
This is only fire.
yes, no. I
The
get it.
entire thing is covered by the Atchison County Sheriff. The entire thing is covered by Atchison County Rescue.
Right.
With the EMS,
That's rescue.
Yeah.
Rescue
Well,
EMS.
Yeah.
well, but
Rescue.
ambulance service.
That's that goes in to the rescues.
Well, okay,
because-
just to make sure
Because
that-
I don't know, none of these others talk about ambulance, okay?
Well, the only reason I bring that up is because I have word that calls go to dispatch. That's the issue, that some of these, like I know this area here was routed, 911 was routed to Holton.
Well, 911 is not a term we use. There
Well-
are 3 calls plus an additional call for every one of these areas. So there are 4 jurisdictions notified. There is a law enforcement area, there is a rescue ambulance name on it, and there is a fire district, and there's a backup of who else can respond. Okay, there are 4 of those in the system. We put those together and we send those to Mark, who then transfer those into the 911 system. Okay. So the numbers and names on those were all created in our database, sent to them. They turn around and put those in the 911 dispatch system. So that's what's going on. Now, they have always been coordinated between Kim and Wes for the longest period of time, and now it's Corey. And Corey just got into it. We just got into it more with this Effingham service situation. And so that's why I'm finding things and saying, these have to be straightened out.
Yeah, it's been a mess for years.
It has to be straightened out. And I'm telling you, I don't want to set on it without you being fully knowledgeable and agreeing that you know that these lines are not correct, but we won't take those service jurisdictions off of it. And that's what I'm hearing at the moment. Is that
That's what
correct?
I'm waiting. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to take anything off. We just need to get it right.
Okay,
Yeah, no, I agree.
I agree.
well, do understand, it concerns me when I've got things misrepresented.
Yeah.
And people come in, and you'll hear people from time to time come in and say, hey, you have the roads all wrong in our township. We heard that not very long ago, but the reality is less than what we hear. Okay,
All right.
second thing, County Lake. Let me hand out some sheets on this also.
So you're,
Thank you.
Now, what I'm gonna do is just bring you up to date with where we are on this. Because when you talk about it, it's easy to think, oh, we're just selling the county lake property. Well, first of all, when this came up, I'm gonna tell you, it's kind of color coded here, but it was 9 separate tracts of property that were purchased. Okay. And as we often find, and what the numbers that you see on here, those are book and page numbers of the original purchases. Now, there have been modifications to some of those since then. And it's like a jigsaw puzzle, but the pieces aren't all shaped correctly. Because although there are descriptions on each of these, and we know what the tracks were that they were trying to convey, they don't always fit exactly the parcels that are there. So when you start putting multiple parcels together, they don't always fit well like a jigsaw puzzle. Now, I spoke to you about the roads that are in that area. The reason this is coming up is because we spoke about the roads, that they were never dedicated, they were park drives. And we said, I suggested that a survey be done if you're going to sell it, to clean this up and make sure that everything is correct and that you don't have future problems with it. You informed me to go out and notify some. We notified 5 agencies. We got back 2 qualification statement proposals for working on that. I don't want to stipulate who and how much they are right now. All I want you to do is know that I know I shot a number to you all before, and it seems high, but it isn't high when you consider a normal tract of property you're going to get surveyed has like 4 points, maybe 5 or 6.
Yeah.
This, with these properties, has 143 property corners just to get the tract down. And then the roads are all additional surveying. So there's a lot of stuff there, and I've talked about it. Probably the most intelligent way to do it is put the entire track in, put the roads on it, have a dedication statement on it, file it as a plat, and then it becomes completed all at the same time, all done one time. We have that out there now. I am going to suggest to you, I don't have any reason for you to move forward on this. I have told the 2 respondents that the county has to make decisions on it before we go any further. I said, and I think I said this the other day also, if you're not going to sell it, don't go do all this work. Don't spend a gob of money that you don't need to. Now, would it be helpful? Oh, sure. But it's funds that you don't have to expend in a time when you're having trouble putting the numbers together. If you prepare to go forward, what I would suggest that you do a qualifications review, whereby you take a look at the proposals that we have. If you want another proposal, tell me. That's why I'm not giving any numbers. But if you know of someone else you'd like to have submitted, please tell me and I'll do that. But the idea is you could do a qualification-based look at it, say, hey, we'd like to work with this person. I can show you what their thoughts are as a range. I just asked them for a range of what it would cost to get this done. You can look at that. Then we could go negotiate with them to make sure we're getting all the pieces of the puzzle we need. And then we could proceed with it. So I'm just telling you, we're there now. I wanted you to know that.
Thank you.
All right. And nothing else critical for you there. And Corey has now walked in, so that question could be asked while I'm still sitting here because I'm gonna walk out after this.
Can you just wait 10 minutes and Brian,
Okay.
just real quick?
I will.
Okay, so next is Brian Oswalt, Maintenance Director, with the discussion on the EMS roof.
You're just leaving your stuff there. I'm gonna be wrong.
Huh?
Coming right back there.
No, I'm not gonna come back.
Okay, so we went after proposals for the roof. We did get two back. One from BRT at $36,960. And Trower for $20,476.
Okay.
So, Trower has done work for us before.
What was that figure again?
On Trower, it was $20,476. And on BRT, it was $36,960.
And this is to
We didn't get any other bids back but those two.
correct the entire roof.
Yes.
All right, so your recommendation would be,
To go with Trower, yeah.
all right, I would look for a motion to approve the purchase order from Troyer Roofing and Coatings for the metal restoration system of the entire roof of the EMS building located at 10443 US Highway 59 in the amount of $20,476. This comes with a 10-year labor, 20-year materials, non-prorated warranty that will be issued to the county upon completion of the job. This will be paid out of our reserve fund, as well with discussion of unintended water issues that we're not budgeted for in our maintenance. Do I have a motion to approve?
Also moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes 3-0.
Sorry, I was anticipating. That's
you're
the
fine.
question that
Yep. Thank you for doing that,
You
Brian,
bet.
also. All right,
That's all I got.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Corey Scott, EMS Director, with the March 2025 EMS report, as well as kind of chiming in on our and actually, if we want to do that first, because Roger wanted to, he just went over the rural fire district number 2 expansion discussion with us.
Yeah.
And just wanted some,
I've been, helping to try to figure some of that out. We have the contract between Horton Fire and City of Muskota and Grasshopper Township. They provided a map that has the lines. They don't necessarily match the lines that GIS had, but we do have their contract in hand. The Everest Fire one couldn't locate.
There's a map, but the map was not referred to in the agreement.
Correct, yes. The Everest Fire one, we couldn't come up with the original. We presented a new one to the Grasshopper Township Board. I think they might have looked at it last night. That last night was their meeting. I'm gonna have to get a hold of Ryan Swenson and see if they looked at that. Roger found the one for District 2 in Grasshopper Township. I talked to the Holton Fire Chief. They have no agreement. There has never been money that changed hands. It was just a handshake agreement because the Delaware River can isolate that area during times of flooding. I have called the Valley Falls Fire Chief, but have not gotten a call back. So
Perfect.
that's where we stand on those.
Okay.
Working on it.
thank you.
I don't have anything on the report. The report was pretty standard, normal month.
Lori, would it be okay with you if I reached out by letter to Holton and Valley Falls Fire Department?
Yeah, absolutely.
Ask them.
And again, I don't know if that falls into the Grasshopper Township has always done their own contracts with their own fire departments. I don't know if those Holton and Valley Falls areas falls to the county deciding that or the local township deciding. I really don't know.
Okay, we had, there's some of this is overlap, and that's the reason. I was under the understanding like dispatch, this area here is dispatched to Holton, that when they call 911, that goes to Holton. That's the way I understood it, that's the way, because they were gonna be part of Holton's district, they never did file for any taxes, that's the reason it's a no man's land.
I would have to speak to Kim and Jack on that before I was 100%
So when I
certain.
was on the fire district, that was what was understood, at least.
But when we run EMS calls in that area, I don't believe those 911 calls are going into Holton. I believe they're coming over here, but that would be a Kim and Jack question. I really can't answer that one definitively.
Well, see, and my only thing on that was there was presumption of contracts, or there's been money changing hands.
There is
up
money,
here.
I can confirm there's definitely
But the
money changing
borders
hands.
aren't exact. We don't have those. This area here, as far as fire protection was, no one was. I mean, Holton said it wasn't theirs and rural fire district number 2 said it wasn't theirs. So there was a lack of anything, agreement there.
Yeah.
So there's just
And
different.
I did speak to the Holton Fire Chief and he essentially confirmed what you're saying. They're just doing it as a courtesy.
Yeah. So the way I understood it was that at the time when they divided it up that way, that they would have had to file, because it's crossing county lines, that they would have had to file to expand their district, kind of like Effingham's doing here.
Yeah, my understanding of that is, and Pat can probably correct me, but if a fire district outside of the county officially absorbs that as a taxing entity and part of their taxing district, that has to be approved by the state legislature.
I don't
Now,
think it does.
contracts, on the other hand, function differently in my understanding, because they can just
Yeah.
contract and just write a contract like Everest, Horton, and District 2 have with Grasshopper.
After the district's formed, they can join the residents could join a district that's out of county. But the percentage of landowners necessary to meet that petition requirement is substantially higher. I think it's
Okay.
60% instead of 10%.
I deferred to
That
Pat.
actually occurred with the Northville contract, with the Northville
Yeah,
district,
and that,
because we have a portion of the Northville Fire District in Atchison County.
yeah, that is correct too. So,
So you're working on it.
to the best of my ability.
Okay.
Yeah, but I certainly defer to you if you wanted to send letters to Holton and Valley and see what they come back with.
But as far as your response, rescue EMS.
Rescue and EMS is responding to those
You're
areas.
doing that.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
EMS didn't used to respond to that Valley Falls area, but Valley Falls no longer provides an ambulance service there. They've contracted back to being just a fire department, so we reabsorbed those areas with EMS. Same held true when the Horton Hospital closed. The Horton Hospital owned Horton EMS. When they went out of business, we absorbed that area back again, that up in the northwest part of the county.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then your EMS monthly commission report for March was received. So I look for a motion to receive and file as presented.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Passes 3-0.
All right.
All right. Thank you, Corey.
Have a good afternoon, morning,
you.
whatever it is.
All right, next we have Joe Snyder, Road and Bridge Superintendent, project number 3C-5343. And discussion and decision on bridge 29.8-C.5 west of River Road. Oh, sorry. Well, then we're gonna wait.
Yeah, the hallway.
Okay.
Order one.
Last spring, we applied for an op system bridge and 15-4 N6 was selected. It's 3.5 miles north of Lancaster on Jewel Road. Part of the process is the state will send us an agreement. An agreement is a written document including all attachments and exhibits evidencing and legally binding terms, conditions to the agreement between the parties. And this is a federally aided job. And I'll just kind of go through the funding here so everybody understands this. So responsibility, the secretary, 100% of participating costs, construction and correction engineering, not to exceed $900,000. County, 0% of that, 100% of participating cost of construction and fees after the secretary's funding limit is reached, which we normally don't have that. But 100% of the preliminary, so it'd be the preliminary engineering, right-of-way, utility adjustments, and non-participating costs. So this is something we do every year. This is part of the process. We're awarded the job or the bridge. Now we sign the agreement with the state of Kansas on the federally funded off-system bridge. Back here.
Do we have an estimated date? Like,
So
what that looks
we
like?
have it within 2 years after the contract signed, I believe, to have the job completed.
Awesome.
Now, the Kansas local bridge is the one we've done before. They're very close, but could be a little different.
And this was the Jewel Road with the big
Yes.
concrete pillars. It'll be,
Well, it's the one north of the one that was hit by the
Yep.
sprayer.
right.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, so I would look for a motion to approve the agreement with the Secretary of Transportation at KDOT and Atchison County for the off-system bridge program with the bridge replacement located 3.6 miles north of Lancaster. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes 3-0. Thank you.
The other discussion point was bridge 29.8-C.5 west of River Road. That we've been talking about where it's been closed by the state. What our goal or plan is on that. The state pays up to $1,000 a foot with a minimum of 50 feet. This bridge is 54 feet on the Kansas Local Bridge Improvement Plan. If we were to close that bridge permanently, the bridge has to be intact. If we apply and are accepted, then after acceptance, then we can take the bridge out. We have up to 5 years to apply on that bridge, but the bridge would have to remain in place until either the 5 years expire or we're accepted. And the those applications are due here in May, and I was just kind of wondering.
Yeah.
Where we stand.
Did we send letters out?
We didn't send that. This is the funk.
Yeah.
Rates that we talked about, in case you're wondering. I had a good discussion with John Funk about it. I probably would prefer that we go into executive session to discuss the details of that, but.
Yeah.
How much time do you need? Because we're ahead of schedule. We have some time.
Well, maybe 10 minutes.
10 minutes? Attorney-client? Sorry, yeah.
I'll move the Board of County Commissioners recess into executive session at 11:36 a.m. for consultation with an attorney for the public body, which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship as allowed by K.S.A. 75-4319B2, and the purpose of the closed session is to protect the confidentiality of the discussion, and that the board come out of executive session in 10 minutes in the commission room of the courthouse basement, and those present will be 3 commissioners, county councilor, road and bridge superintendent.
I'll second. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, passes 3-0. Very nice. Oh, you're totally fine.
I think you just click on the,
Well,
the camera itself.
The video and the audio both.
Yeah,
yeah.
right there.
Okay, you're back on.
Okay, thank you. All right, so, Bridge 29.8-C.5 west of River Road. At this moment, no decisions will be made.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And Mr. Henderson will continue to communicate with them.
Yes.
Okay, I'll just make sure. I just want a follow-up plan of like what that looks like. So when he comes back, we'll just make sure that we all know
Right.
what the follow-up is. So, Mr. Henderson, we just wanted to follow up with moving forward on the bridge 29.8 -C.5 West River Road. You will be communicating with the landowner for next steps.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Wonderful. All right, we are ahead of schedule. However, Mr. Corpshine's here, so discussion of potential rock quarry at 15159 318th Road. You want to come up and visit with us?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want one?
No. Thank you.
I was gonna read this.
Yeah,
Is that
yeah,
okay?
absolutely.
Well, I should say I'm gonna try to read this. I'm Clint Corpstein, and there's obviously discussions of a rock quarry coming, so I'm gonna read this to you and then we'll discuss. Atchison County Commissioners and Representatives, thank you for taking the time to hear our concerns today. I stand before you as a concerned citizen, a farmer, and a member of the community with pressing issue that affects all of us. In the next 30 days, a rock quarry is set to be established in our farming area. Unbeknownst to me, my uncle had signed a contract with the company prior to his death in January of this year. As the sole inheritor of this property, I was just notified of this agreement 2 weeks ago. While I understand that our county remains unzoned, I urge you to consider the broader impacts this quarry will have on our way of life and the community as a whole. First and foremost, I'd like to highlight the significant environmental and health concerns this quarry could pose. The noise generated from the operation of large machinery and blasting is not just an inconvenience, it's a potential hazard to both physical and mental well-being. Our children, our elderly, and everyone who lives here will be affected by constant disruptions of their peace. The dust and particle matter will always create air quality concerns, potentially leading to respiratory issues. The exact thing my uncle suffered from and died from, and existing health problems. The blasting itself prevents even more serious risk. Vibrations from the blast can cause structural damage to nearby homes, barns, and other buildings. The dust and debris kicked up by these blasts may settle on crops, damaging them and potentially affecting the quality of our harvest. For a farming community like ours, this is not a mere inconvenience, it's a serious threat to our livelihoods. Moreover, the potentially for water contamination and disruption of the water table cannot be ignored. Quarries can significantly affect local water resources, and in our farming area, water is a lifeblood. We rely on clean water for both our crops and livestock. If the quarry's operation affects the local water table or worse, pollute the groundwater, it could have a devastating long-term effects that extend far beyond the quarry itself. Equally concerning is the impact this project will have on wildlife. Many of us depend on the balance of nature around us. The disruption of local ecosystem habitat loss and the introduction of pollutions will affect the wildlife that call this area home. This is not just an environmental issue, but a culture one as well. Additionally, the wear and tear on our roads and infrastructure is a major concern. Increased truck traffic will put an enormous strain on our already aging roads that have just recently been redone. This will lead to higher maintenance costs and increased danger for our drivers, including our children who rely on these roads to travel to school. Our infrastructure was not designed to withstand the heavy demands of an operation like this, and the resulting damage will only add more financial burdens to our county. We may not have zoning laws in place to prevent this, Corey, but I ask you, as our representatives, to think about the long-term consequences of the contract. I encourage you to look further into this matter, speak with the many residents who are deeply concerned about these issues, and explore alternate solutions. We don't want to be seen as obstructing progress or growth, but we do want to ensure that growth doesn't come at the cost of our health, environment, or way of life. The people of this community, including myself, fear the quarry that this quarry could drastically alter the fabric of our lives, and we are asking for you your help to safeguard our future. Please listen to those who live and work here. Speak with your constituents, take time to consider the full range of impacts that this quarry will have, and work with us to explore all available options. Thank you for your time and consideration. I trust that as our elected representatives, you will prioritize the welfare of the community, our family, and our future. I don't know how you guys feel about this. This was, like I said, just brought up in the last 2 weeks to me. So, and we,
How big a footprint is this quarry supposed to take? I mean, like
4
10 acres or
the contract says 470 acres.
oh, it's gonna take a whole.
I don't know that they got the contract for that many acres. I don't,
What's the, do you have the length of the contract also? What is it?
it's a 25-year contract with 4 annual renewals, 5 years apiece at their dispense, so 45 years.
And have you had a chance to speak to the folks out in that area?
That live around there?
Yeah, landowners.
Yes, I have. I didn't think you wanted me to bring them all with me, but they
Well-
all, they offered. so-
Well, no, I'm curious because this is new to us also, at least to me. And so, of course, we haven't had a chance to speak to anybody about it at this point, at least I haven't.
No, he just called me last week after
Yeah.
the K.S.A. and that's when I gave him you guys' contact to contact you. And I contacted Mr. Henderson to see what we can do.
Right.
And
right.
so that's kind of where we're at of just knowing what can we do. Usually it's interesting, because typically it's not the landowner trying to stop it, right? Like typically it's the neighbors trying to stop something. So this is a unique situation. So that's why I didn't know, what.
Due to an unfortunate health problems that my uncle had, he passed, and I didn't know very much about this. And so there was a lot of stuff I learned 2 weeks ago, and I'm not familiar with this type of stuff.
Sure,
So,
sure. Yeah. Is there,
And
Charlie approached me July of 2022.
you might know more than I do.
Well,
about
no, I know very little. And he was
So-
wanting to know about truck route. He kind of showed me where they were wanting to come out on the Osho Road north of 322nd. And it's a lot of water under the bridge since then. Then we forwarded it and Pat got a hold of Mid-States, but then, or I guess it was Bettis.
It was
Bettis.
yeah.
And then they was like, they weren't gonna do anything for a while and it's just, nothing's happened. That's what I know.
so what are the options? What are the legal options? I mean, some kind of petition, drive and some kind of legal action?
Well, you can adopt land use regulation. And I don't think there's a way to really have this discussion without mentioning zoning. But land use regulation carries with it a planning phase, and that is the establishment of a planning commission to. I should back up. The Kansas Attorney General has given opinions in the past that you have in your police powers the ability to limit land use that would be injurious to public health, safety, and welfare, things of that nature. By so that you have that authority, according to the Attorney General. By statute, the well-recognized method for exercising that power is through zoning. Now, the question of can this be done without using the zoning statutes? I don't know the answer to that. And I wouldn't say I'm an expert on this area of law by any means, but when we have mentioned the or discuss the possibility of a comprehensive zoning system for the county. The commission hasn't in general shown a lot of interest in pursuing that. Maybe some interest, but not enough to get that ball rolling. I have looked at several counties adopted resolutions that banned renewable energy projects in their counties. And those the moratoria that they did almost universally were done under the zoning regulations and zoning statutes. In fact, all of them that I found, and I found through Google searches, nothing any more comprehensive than that, were all done through zoning statutes. And that zoning statute does require that you go through a process of appointing a planning commission of citizens. It has to be at least 5. There's not an upward limit on how many it can be, and the majority of them have to live outside of the incorporated areas of the city. So you have that is, you can't have residents that can't be dominated by people who live within cities located within the county. I'm not aware, I know the city of Atchison has zoning. I'm not aware whether any of the cities of the 3rd class have zoning at all. I'm not aware of that. But anyway, my understanding is that you would have to at least begin that process. You could do a moratorium, but it would be temporary in nature, something like 6 months. I think some of those went as long as 1 year. I don't recall seeing any of the moratoria that were done for renewable energy being longer than a year. But it has to be limited in time. There is the possibility that you'll end up in a lawsuit from a developer claiming that that they've had something taken from them because they had a reasonable expectation that they could complete a project, and that's been destroyed through regulation. We have to face any potential claims that might come about as they come about.
And the fact that the original contract was with somebody who's deceased and now the land has been passed off doesn't hold any water, I guess, either.
It doesn't change things. I have seen that lease. I can't say that I studied it a whole lot, but it's got language in it that makes it binding upon the heirs and assigns of the landlord under the lease, the owner of the land who was leasing the land.
So I just have a few questions, because to the point of what our power is, well, first of all, let me state, I can firmly tell you that all of my constituents are completely against zoning, period. Like, they've expressed that to me multiple times, and that's where I stand on that. But are we able to assist in protecting people's interests based on health and safety as presented today with a resolution or any type of, how do we protect people, right? That, because it doesn't matter if you're talking about a quarry or a wind farm or a hog lot, like whatever people are affected by, what can we, because so we're doing it right currently with our nuisance. Like in that it states, the health and environment of why we want you to go clean up your property. So we're doing it in certain instances. How can we do it if we have everyone in the region of this area, including the landowners, stating this is gonna meet the health and hazards of the county, do we have any
Yeah.
authority?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
And candidly, I was maybe expecting, I'm not expecting, hoping that, I thought maybe this was a topic that had come up at your meetings that you guys were at last week, to some degree. I know who I can ask to try to get some idea about it, but, I don't know whether, I'm not aware of a way that it can be done other than through zoning. But I don't want to say that there is or there isn't.
Yeah.
There may be.
So with time being of essence of they're planning to move in May 24th, is that correct?
That's when they can legally come in.
Okay,
May
so, and we
24th.
have no road agreements in place,
Right, and that was back when Joe mentioned that he had been in touch with them. I was in touch with their attorney too, asking, what's going on here about, because we hadn't had any discussion and we were wondering about getting a road agreement in place. And the response I got back is, this is something that will be a few years in the future and we'll be back in touch with you before, if we're going to go forward in a meaningful way. And I haven't heard anything since then.
and so when we heard that back in 2022, and then we would see those folks at conferences, and we would like I personally ask, like, hey, what's the update on the quarry? And it's like, oh, it doesn't really look like it's going to come to fruition, was always the answer that I got. And then now it's like, hey, we're coming in 30 days, do you think that some type of a letter from you to their attorney stating, like, basically the county doesn't want this, and I mean, obviously we would have to have a petition and have some type of factual sheets, right? That this many people surrounding are against it, but I'm just trying to.
I could certainly reach out to their counsel to ask, hey, what's the deal? You said you were gonna get back to this and you
Yeah.
didn't. I don't have any quarrel with doing that. I don't know how much, I don't know what effect that would have, but sure, I will do that.
Another question I have is, so short of the zoning, which even zoning, so there's no grandfathering of this, I mean, the contract's in place, so anything we do now is clearly in response to the contract, and so there's no grandfathering them in, even if we throw something at them right away.
Well, it's not an existing use.
But the contract is in place, that's what I'm saying, I mean. So if we, is that gonna be a stickler if we try to do something after the fact, which is?
That's the argument somebody challenging your action would bring.
Okay.
That's the argument they would use.
But with that being said, on what other counties are seeing with wind farms and different things, that's what's happening. People get to the owners and get things in writing, and then you find out about it after the fact.
Right.
So I feel like this is just like one example of probably more, more to come. So understanding the process, because
No, I get it.
they want to convince you, sign on the dotted line, and then.
And I won't be popular for saying this, and that's fine. But you don't want zoning. You don't want county zoning. And this is what you get. This is the, the result is that we can't help him because we don't have that in place, and we've got people that, refuse to allow zoning. And so there clearly are benefits, and but we, as you've said, there's folks out there that don't want it no matter what, and there are good reasons to have it. This is one of them right here, is that now could we do something quickly and very limited in scope? Could we do that? Just for this incident?
maybe you can, but part of limited in scope is limited in duration. So, I mean, most of them, as I said, were 6 months. I think there were a couple of them that were a year. You're postponing the issue, I guess.
So you're saying it couldn't be permanent? Whatever we decide.
Like
Because-
a limitation on the quarry.
On the quarry in that area, or, whatever.
As I said, the question was, is there a way to do this without using the zoning statutes? I'm not aware that there's a way to do that on a permanent basis without using the zoning statutes. But I'm not enough of an expert to definitively tell you there's no way to do this without using the zoning statutes that we have.
Well, even the zoning, though, if you were to work up an agreement like Brown County did.
Yeah, and that was news to me. Before today, I had not heard of that. I had heard last week that they had started the process for zoning, but that's all I had heard about. So,
But it looks like it's just very limited in scope on their part, and that's how they got. Is that how you read it? Did you?
Yeah, I
read
didn't.
through that.
I briefly did. So just to give you, Eric had a copy this morning. He brought us of a Brown County resolution that adopted a regulation.
On wind farms.
Yes. So it was just kind of ironic timing. He had a copy of that this morning and I haven't had a chance to read through it thoroughly, or I left a message for Mr. Heinen yesterday, one of their county commissioners, to kind of ask him, right? Because I know that they were concerned about the wind farms and had the Brown County Blade Watch, and I wanted to get some guidance of how they were stopping something like that without the
yeah, and I noted their resolution makes reference to
zoning. Yeah, I read that too. So
It's kind of like a zoning light, or maybe a
Well, it's-
targeted zoning,
It's
or.
limited targeted zoning, and that's how they probably were able to get the.
Yeah.
Okay to do it. I mean, they felt like they were.
So just so I understand though, even if we were zoned, when a constituent comes to us after the fact of something signed, it would be the same perception, right? That we're stopping something that's already been, or I guess, how does that prevent, like a landowner could never enter in a contract without approval?
I think landowners would be free to enter into contracts. It's
Okay.
the use of land that is restricted. And generally, one of the concepts underlying zoning is that like uses should be placed together. As a practical matter, when we're talking about the county, almost all of it is dedicated, outside of the cities, is dedicated to agricultural use or residential use. And that those two uses are very compatible with one another. Living next door to a farm is compatible land uses. And it's when something else comes into play that there's a concern. It's when somebody decides that they're going to build a tower, for example, or a hog rendering plant, or a chicken farm, not a chicken farm, a chicken processing plant. You know, the examples that have come up, or a wind farm. But you would have, as part of a zoning resolution, definitions of what land uses are automatically allowed. And those would be things like, well, all agricultural uses they're even by statute exempted from zoning regulations.
Even-
Agricultural uses are going.
Even corporate hog farming.
Well,
I
hate
mean,
to
I think
answer- There's a specific statute that does say agricultural uses are allowed. I'm not an expert on it. I don't want to talk about any of those. I don't want to espouse opinions on things that I don't know enough about, but generally speaking, agricultural uses are going to be allowed. Housing uses are going to be allowed. And should be allowed in the rural areas of our county. It's the that several other uses, and they would be defined a lot more specifically through a resolution, would require that someone apply for and obtain a special use permit to be allowed to change property from its current usage to whatever type of land usage we're talking about, this situation of quarry.
To your point, though, why couldn't if you had a limited scope, for, this zoning issue, why couldn't you put safety, anything that comes in that has a potential health or safety issue for the general public, will not be allowed in this zoning area. I think that would cover it, because then you could go to his statement there, that definitely is gonna have all those, those issues come with it, so.
Yeah, I'm curious about what Brown County has after reading their resolution here today for the first time, but they just have one zoning district. They just have one. Typically there are, like, within a city, there's residential uses, there's industrial uses, commercial uses. They just have one.
Well, it looks like they were trying to keep it simple, and it was very focused on the one issue, and they wanted to keep, wind power out, and that's what it was about, and I think that, to me, that makes sense, to keep it simple and.
Yeah, or to the point of, would we be allowed to do some type of resolution to the fact of a quarry, right? If a quarry came into Atchison County, that this is the process that they must take before operating, like something that takes into the effect of the health, and because that, I mean, that operation and all the things that are explained there isn't just like I'm gonna open up a business. Like, it's gonna have huge impacts on all the people in the area. And then, who's liable for those? Some of those, it's.
Right.
And maybe those are questions you could ask their attorney of, like, hey, the board's very concerned. There's gonna be a petition of names of people that want to stop this. I guess, what does that look like?
Well, to directly answer your question, I don't know. I don't want to go try to get legal advice from a potential adversary either. I'll do my own research and figure that out. There are people I'll certainly talk to get on the right direction, but don't usually do that by relying on people that we know would be opposed to the regulation. So the only method that I've seen, but it's been a pretty limited search, has been through zoning. Is there a way to do it? Otherwise, I don't know, but I think we could find out. I think I could find out. I think I could find out before your meeting next week.
Wonderful.
I'm gonna be gone Thursday, Friday to the continuing legal education seminar. But,
Yeah, that would still, I mean, that would be great.
No, as far as you know, there's been no contact with the mid-state from you or any the family members, or
There's
do you
been
know?
contact with me. They have contacted me.
Oh, they
That's how I know they're coming on the 24th of May.
Okay, so
I think Charlie might have been in contact with them. Me personally, I never have. I found out about them coming. I went to a lawyer that was working with us, and I showed him the documents that they sent me, and they said all we can do is hold them off for 45 days. So
okay, that's
So I have a question. Isn't there a lot of permitting through the state for this to happen?
there's stormwater. I was talking to Roger about it. There's stormwater study that has to be done, runoff that has to be done. Now, we have no way of knowing if they've done it. I just sent you the state statute on it, and you can print that off for.
Okay, yeah, I'll print it.
Mr.
So I didn't know if they would they have to send the landowner copies of their permitting, or,
You would think so.
that's kind of what I was
You would think so.
wondering. Because I know Charlie had told me that you know, they have to go through the permitting and do that, but.
Now, the local stuff, it's kind of like, Pat was saying. You know, they're gonna come in and talk about the roads, you know, permitting for the roads, but that's nothing. I don't think you could do anything permanent from our end. What I'm saying is, I don't think the county could actually say, well,
Well, how did it work with Hams when we came up with our road agreement with them?
well,
My
I know that was
understanding-
before all of us.
It was before I was here too. My understanding was that it was part of their requirements to get their licensure or their permitting, that they have a road use agreement with the county. That was before I was here.
Yeah, no, I understand, but that's just one of the,
but an agreement and then trying to like use that as a way to prevent it. I don't know how long you could do that. It's like Pat's saying, eventually they would be like, wait a minute, you gotta be
right.
dragging your feet here and, you know. It might last a month, but I don't know if it would last beyond that. You want something permanent, you want, you know, you want this thing. Done.
10 pages. So as far as next steps, would having, Mr. Corpsine get a petition with additional signatures help us at all? Like, for him to do his due diligence in the next week, like you will be as well? I mean,
I think,
sorry if I missed something while I was getting the printer.
no, that's really a question for you, is that, would that sway how you would
Well-
consider what you would do?
I mean, in every decision we make, hearing from our constituents is important.
But would that petition be directed to the quarry or to the commission to keep them out? That's the. See what I'm saying is the criticism or the expectation gonna be directed or addressed to us? Or is it, you think more of them addressing the quarry, you know, signing a petition to ask the quarry to reconsider?
Well, I think the question at hand is, can the Board of County Commission assist with stopping something that posts health and safety hazards to our community and our public? I mean, to me, I think I would want to hear from the constituents, because if I'm making a decision to stop something, if we have the authority, I can't do that based on one person's request, right? Like, it just.
Well, it's just, there was just different ways of looking at that, you know, how you would direct
Yeah.
something, you know.
And also from a private business standpoint, I hate to say this, but typically they don't care. They're not gonna care, right? Like, they don't care. They care about themselves and the bottom dollar, and that's what they typically care about, unfortunately. So,
I mean, I'd be willing to do whatever it took.
Yeah.
But I just want to make sure that it's gonna be something that's gonna actually have some teeth, you know, I just. And it would be nice, did you say something about reaching out to the company to see where they're at in this process? I mean,
Yeah.
they contacted you, so clearly their mind is. But, yeah, if you could check and see like where they're at in the process, because we have no idea if they've actually, you know, done the stormwater survey. And if you read on there, it gets pretty specific about if you, I think you disturb 1 acre of land or something like that, you'd have to have a study done. I just read the first couple of paragraphs or pages on that, so.
Casey, is that, we get a report maybe 2 or 3 times a year. Is that the Kansas Water Office that sends, and sometimes there'll be someone in violation of runoff or
Mhm.
contaminants or things like that. Wonder what, that's probably in the clerk's.
yes.
Thing there, if we could, that might be a good source or a good contact. I can't think of
Yep.
the name of that office. and they send out the whole list for the whole state and which counties
There's
have any that are
feedlots on there and all the things, yeah.
violations or, and it has to do with water quality. I believe everything is.
Sorry, we're just gathering information.
Sitting here, listen, I have never dealt with anything like this before, so it's all new to me, and it took a couple weeks, I guess, for it to soak in, and then I came to you for other help because I don't know if I can do anything myself.
Well, I'm not sure
So,
we can do anything.
yeah.
That's what,
Yeah,
until
and
you called me.
I understand that.
Yeah, I haven't said very much because they've been doing a great job. It's been great arguments here or discussion on this. I don't know whether we'll have the authority or to do it targeted or, and then again, I think your thing was, is it? I know on the, when we've, or first discussions we've had on the windmills and the wind generation there, that once leases had been taken out in the county, that then you were without having restrictions or guidelines set in place, it changed the way what you could do because one was in anticipation and one before anything had started. And now this is something that's, it may not be relatable or not, but there's already a lease in place. And if you take action against something that's already got the lease in place for, then it becomes punitive, like it's a punishment or a thing. So am I making sense?
I understand what you're saying, yes.
Yes, okay. I just, sometimes you don't know whether, I don't have the legal words or whatever. So that's where my thought was going when we were talking about doing, comparing it with the wind generation is one was preemptive and the other one is after the fact. So I think that's going to be a big determination in whether what we would have teeth or if it just sets us up for a lawsuit. That was another thing that was brought up on the wind generation. So.
And one of the things you mentioned to me on the phone was that you thought Mid-States had recorded a deed, but Charlie hadn't signed it. Is that correct?
They got a contract, they reported something with their registered deeds. Pat can tell you what it is.
It's a memorandum of lease agreement. It's just doing hard notice to the world that there was a lease in place. They're not uncommon. There are agreements as that it needs to be signed by the landowner, and it wasn't signed by the landowner. But the point of recording it, it didn't change their legal rights. It was just designed to give notice to a potential purchaser of the land, for example, that they had a claim of rights to the lease.
Okay, so then we will do some investigating on our side and next week have kind of an update on what we find out.
Alrighty, thank you.
And yeah, I guess, does anyone have a card down here that, like, if anybody wants to send us the information to commissioners at ATCO, is that on there by chance? I'll write it on the back.
Yeah.
Oh, is it perfect?
Well, it's got the, no, right.
It says yours.
Go ahead, right on the back.
That way, yeah,
It's got the.
it'll come to all of us, so like feedback on it.
Well,
To the public, what we're talking about is you can email the commissioners at ATCO K.S. and it'll reach all three of us at the same time without having to address.
So if the folks in the neighborhood that are opposed as well want to share their opposition with us, it's really great to just communicate with all three of us so that we all hear the same things.
when it comes to a petition, I mean, do we have a legal authority to encourage that, or does that have to be from somebody from the outside?
There's no problem with you encouraging.
Okay,
Well, I shouldn't say, with this, there would be no problem.
okay, because I was gonna say, is there anything the county could do to reach out to that, the folks in that area.
From what I understand, they have not pulled a permit with the state yet, but they have 30 days after they start construction to pull a permit.
So, and also I'm just kind of grasping for straws here, but what would happen if the board were to draft a letter on our letterhead, just stating the facts, right? We met with a gentleman today that has concerns, our community has concerns of X, Y, and Z, what was brought to us. And at this moment, we just want to encourage you, you know, to do the, I don't know if it's do the right thing or, you know,
A letter to whom?
to the quarry. To state like, because here's the deal, right? If I own something and I'm coming into an area that no one wants you, like, what kind of working relationship does that have? Like, and maybe they don't care about us either, but I'm just trying to think of like, would it hurt? Like, right? Like, we hear you as constituents and we're concerned based on your concerns, and I don't know, maybe you guys are opposed to that thought.
No, my thought was, can we reach out to the folks out in that part of the individually, folks, and say, this is what the county's impression of this. And I mean, we could actually, you know,
Yeah.
include Mr. Corpstein's letter here and ask for feedback. And I mean, he can go out on his own and do it.
Yeah.
But maybe this would have a little more
Yeah.
impact if we did something like that. And that's what I was asking. Can the county
Do you have your
go to
contact
that
in
length and do
States?
something like that or not? I mean, is that?
I'm just saying if we get a letter, like,
Okay.
hey, we have concerns and we're looking into our,
We could get a contact, yes.
So, if we're gonna talk about strategies and things, that should probably be an executive session on it.
Yeah.
Right.
sorry.
I gotta feel.
All right, well, so we will be in contact with you.
Well, thanks for your time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry for the inconvenience.
No,
I
not at all.
did not know much about, or hardly any, so I learned a lot 2 weeks ago, so.
I think we'll all learn a lot along with
You
you.
did well. You
Yeah.
did well.
Thanks.
Comes that trial by fire. Yeah, I know all about that.
Thank you. Okay, next up, we have actually unfinished business. Let's go ahead and talk through that so we know what's next week. So we'll add unfinished business, we'll add this back to next week. What else here? We have an executive session that was bumped from today to next week.
Is that
That was,
overtime?
yes. Yep. And then how much time do you think we need for that discussion? I didn't answer that question because I wasn't sure without asking you guys.
20 minutes?
Okay, I was thinking the same, so that's fine with me. 20 minutes. Okay, let's see here. Nuisance, Mr. Campbell, I think is that your district? I can't ever remember. But do we need to talk about the nuisance or do we want to put that on the agenda for next week?
Well, I'd like to talk about it. Do we need to go into executive for that or not?
Well,
Are generalities or are we talking about
Well,
specifics?
I wasn't sure what you guys needed to talk about.
Well, you know, we got the new notice from Martha, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then,
Well, she resent the pictures and things that she had.
yeah, so.
I resent the last correspondence I had sent to him. And I don't know what you thought about that or what the next step is, would be more in Pat's property.
Okay, so are we good with adding that to next week's agenda?
That's fine. Yep.
Okay, so we'll add
Please.
that to next week. And what else here? Sorry, when we don't meet for 2 weeks, then I mean, there's a lot of things that we need to kind of touch base on.
Tie up loose ends.
Yeah. We did that one.
I had thought the farm lease with Dan Armstrong was on the agenda for today.
Okay,
He has executed that.
So you worked with him and got a lease agreement in place for the county?
Well, yes, we used the same, the direction that I had was to use the same agreement that was in place before.
Okay.
And it just shrunk down that, and that was a lease that the city had, so we changed some of the language on it. And it changed the number of acres down from 25 to 12 and a half.
Did you send us a copy of that one?
I thought so.
Maybe I missed it.
I don't remember seeing it.
Well, then maybe I didn't.
So is that something we can add to next week's?
Yes,
Okay. All right, so we got that. Um. The city of Atchison is gonna attend our Memorial Hall meeting as well. So. That's something, are we going to have, what date was that? We still have time. Next
May
week's the
15th.
6th. I'm gonna add Memorial Hall to next week so we can kind of dig in more of that. Are you guys good with that? Having our ducks in a row before we get together. All right. Another thing, let's see. I wanted to touch base on, after going to KCCA, we talked about it briefly with one another historically in years past. But I think, and maybe this is rushed, so you guys can tell me if you want to put it on next week's, but in looking at what other counties are levying on property taxes, you know, when they start comparing counties, it's like, gosh, why are our mills so high, right? Like, and then when the other counties show me their graphs that our finance director's given to us, and we compare them, they are utilizing sales tax, in several different areas to help offset that burden on property taxes. And I know we had talked about the EMS sales tax, learning at the KCCA of basically looking at our budget that was presented to us when you take expenditures minus revenue, roughly 1.8. And based on the sales tax numbers of the 1/4 cent of 600,000, that'd be like a 3/4 cent sales tax would be 1.8 roughly. So to help us with that, Bruce Schladney told us to talk to Jay Hall, who was there at the conference as well. And his step one is to talk to Representative Rivas, who ironically had reached out to get on our agenda for his updates next week. So I just didn't know how you guys felt about that. I kind of would love to plant the seed because we missed this year because of the legislative sessions done. But I think the earlier we start these conversations, the better we all are. And just, I don't want to speak out of turn is what I'm saying. So he's coming next week. So if you guys would be willing to entertain that, maybe we at least put it in his wheelhouse of like, this is what we're looking at, thinking about. Because obviously with EMS, they cover the entire county. They take care of a lot of people. Their numbers continue to rise, and many of the people that we take care of aren't paying property tax, but they're paying sales tax. So it's just kind of just a really forward-thinking thought process of maybe next year's ballot with his help, that we could get something on there to let the citizens vote for.
One thing, I mean, when they were comparing the different counties, though, what was their sales tax rate compared to ours? I believe we're already high
Well,
also, so that's another thing to, you know, do we have room to put that in there?
so overall, and honestly, from our perspective, it's like, it's an educational piece, giving the people the power to say yes or no. And I don't, you know, it's up to them. If they say no, they don't want any more sales tax, that's their decision. It's our job, I think, to educate them on the numbers of what it costs to run this service, why it's the best interest of the county to have a county ran service, like our local hospitals needs. Like, there's so many ways to marry the discussion to the greater good of our entire county. I just.
Correct. And I'm
But
not,
to answer your question,
I'm just,
they have sales taxes for several, like, some people are just. This road, some do roads and bridges, you know, some do
Mhm.
this, some do that, but I think our need, from what we've experienced this year, even with the conversations with Amberwell and everything, is like EMS is a good fit. I don't know.
I'm not doubting that a bit. I'm just saying that if we're already kind of peaked out on that, it's gonna be less likely to happen.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and that's something to look at. A good point, Eric. To your point, it's a service that we know we have to have. You know, it has to be expanded to meet the needs. And I can tell you that, you know, the constituency here in District 1 is the primary beneficiary. I mean, the whole county, you know, EMS services the whole county, but the numbers are right here, but for the most part. And so it's property tax relief, but it's also providing a service that you know that we have to provide and that needs more funding. So to me, I think we do it. Yeah, we get it started and talk about it, at least discuss it. But you're right, that's a factor that has
Yeah,
to come into
100%.
it.
Yeah, that's the only
But
point I was
you guys
making.
are on board with at least just kind of
Oh,
like
sure.
putting it out
Exploring.
there to him of like, we want to
Yep.
explore what this
Yep.
looks like. Okay, good.
100%.
All right, awesome.
Do we have a cap on how much we can put
Just-
on the sales tax?
Just for the not dedicated. So our general one that we had that we replaced with the dedicated, we can levy up to a 1 cent, but it has to be a portion to our cities from my understanding of the conference. Is that correct? Okay, so, anything else you guys want to add to next week, then, I'll get those added. We need to decide after our road and bridge budget workshop, we have to do our care recording. So what that looks like for you guys on topics, you can be thinking of that. All right, anything else before we adjourn into budget workshop? Good. All right, so I've looked for, we don't have any notices and communications, no executive sessions. So I'd look for motion to adjourn into budget workshop, for road and bridge. And then also, do our care recording.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor say aye. Aye, passes 3-0. I apologize for the 15-minute delay.
No,
I was trying
no,
really
I
hard
was-
today. It was like.
I
such a-
wasn't scheduled till 1 to start with.
Oh, I
until
thought
we
you were
had-
Tuesday, 12:30, sorry.
No, I mean, it just kept getting changed.